This episode of the Justin Robert Young podcast is brought to you by 354 people bringing you. Well, I'm going to do that again. That sucked. Here we go. One more time. This episode of the Justin Robert Young podcast is brought to you by 354 people at patreon.com/JURY. Wink.
Cause you're pretty ugly by most people's standards, but you're alright by mine.
Holy shit, goddamn, if it ain't another episode of the Justin Robert Young podcast. My name is coincidentally Justin Robert Young. JuRY to my friends. How you doing? How are you? Another week, another episode of the show. I am here for you, friends, and we have a humdinger of a program for you this afternoon. On the menu. Let's go ahead and take a look what we have for you. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to ask you whether or not I'm a racist. I don't know. I have no idea whether or not I'm a racist. There is a joke that I thought of that was from my childhood that I'm going to ask you, and we're going to do a straw poll to find out whether or not I'm racist. Well, I mean, we'll get into it. Whether or not the joke's racist. I don't know whether or not it is. I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to invite your opinions. I'm also going to tell you why Donald Trump is not only good for Republicans and enhances the chance that Republicans will win the White House, but also is good for America. Donald Trump, good for Republicans and good for America. And I'm also I just want to open up a general discussion about something that I think we can all understand, if not empathize with, then certainly something that has been a part of our lives, if not our thought process. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you about having sex at work. I was reading something today, and it got me thinking, and I feel like having sex at work is something that is demonized in our culture, and I don't know why. I just don't know why. We're going to get into that all later. But I'm going to go ahead and switch here. For everybody watching on YouTube or watching this version live here on diamondclub.tv, I'm switching between a shot of myself, and now here I'll go a split screen, a mirrored split screen of a shot of myself and of this fan. Now, I got a fan out here. Hopefully you guys can't hear it over because this PR40 microphone is pretty good. So I'm able to do it. But I got to have this fan out here. All right? You want to know why? It's fucking hot. It really is. It's hot even in the fucking climate controlled area of California. Now, when I first moved out here, I kind of had a bit of a chip on my shoulder about California. I just moved from Florida. And a lot of it was because of my Florida pride. I really enjoy Florida. Or more specifically, I very much enjoy the fact that people think that Florida sucks. Like I very much like the idea that that Florida creeps people out. I like that a lot. I think that that's really fun. I like to wear that T-shirt. I like the face that people make when I say I'm from Florida, because Florida's got a reputation, and I very much like being an ambassador. I don't like to think that I have left Florida. I have left Florida in the way that an ambassador, the Chinese ambassador, is in Washington, D.C. You know, like, he is trying to bring Chinese culture and protect Chinese interests abroad. That's what I'm doing for Florida. That's what I do on this show. That's what I do on every show that I do. I try to let everybody know that my home state is a fucked up mess that I love very, very dearly. However, that translated to me being a little sassy when I first moved out here, and I would constantly find reasons to bitch about California. It's too cold. There's no humidity. I can't, you walk out and you don't even know. Even during the summer, it's the worst, because all of a sudden the sun's out. You think sun's out, guns out, right? Fucking, you're out there in a tank top and flip-flops getting ready to fucking slam a few brewskis and hit the pool. As Stone Cold Steve Austin would say. Because if all of a sudden a goddamn cloud goes in front of that big glowing ball, next thing you know, you're so fucking cold, it's like you're on the dark side of the moon. When you don't have humidity, you just got these fucking temperature changes that are not going to be sustainable. So, I got a little angry about that. I've grown up, I've matured, I've understood where the Northern California climate is something that I very much enjoy. So I'm not down on that. But here's one thing that California, and you ain't alone here, California, the fucking Northeast has the same problem. For whatever reason, everywhere but the South kind of feels like this central air conditioning idea is optional. And let me tell you what, folks, it ain't. I don't give a shit how many times during the year, how many days out of the year your fucking climate is good enough that you can just open a window. All right? You don't need it for those days. You need it for days like today. It's hot as shit out there. We're having what we consider a heat wave out here in Northern California, and specifically when you got two computers running and fucking studio lights, it gets hot as a motherfucker. I'm schwitzing like a hooker in church over here. And I don't fucking get it. Like, how hard is it to build central air conditioning in places? Oh, well, we built these buildings in 1934, before central air conditioning was popular. Fuck you, air conditioning. Well, the codes say that we're not able to upgrade. Fuck you, air conditioning. Well, it would be quite a financial outlay to put it through all the fuck you air conditioning. It's fucking inhumane. Everybody has a right. We have people out here saying, oh, we need to forgive student debt. Greece wants to run up a big fat tab and have the rest of Europe pay for it. I say, fuck that. There is no cause more important to the modern worldwide citizen than getting some good goddamn central air conditioning to each and every home in this land. In fact, on this July 4th weekend, I implore you, listener to the Justin Robert Young podcast, to write your congressman, annoy your landlord, and say this will not be a day that we sweat into the night. We will declare with one clear voice that we will sleep in a fucking functional, humane environment. We will be able to hit beep bop 2 buttons on our wall and have our climate the way that we like. Today, we declare our Air Conditioning Independence Day.
Hey.
Air conditioning every day. We have more on this and so much more right here on the Justin Robert Young podcast. Be right back. if you are watching this, then you are watching a star being born right now. The fan has just really taken on a life of its own. I'm sure it'll have a Twitter account in mere moments. I'm just gonna look. The fans. I know this is a one mic podcast, but that doesn't mean I can't have a silent co-host. So I'm just gonna look at the fan as I do this next segment, because I feel like we make a hell of a team here, fan. You know, you're keeping my ass cool as shit. And right now you're stealing the show, bro. I'll tell you what, I gotta think like you're scooping my heat. There, look at him saying no. So modest. Had this idea yesterday. Somebody was talking about bringing stuff to a party. And I was like, oh, okay, well, should we bring the nacho cheese? And then from that, I remembered a joke. A joke goes like this. All of a sudden, a man, two guys are standing on their front porch. Wheel of cheese goes running by. One man says to the other one, oh, what is that, cheddar? He's like, no. Another guy kind of walks up closer to it. Is that Colby Jack? No. Next thing you know, a man runs up from behind him and says, that's nacho cheese, motherfucker! Nacho cheese! So, here's the question. Is that racist, and am I racist for saying it? I don't know, and here are the vectors for which I dissected it in my head before deciding to say it on the show. Let me also point out that I don't know, I am fully willing, I'm throwing myself on the mercy of the podcast listeners on whether or not this is indeed racist. Here are the vectors that I thought about. Oh, by the way, Ashley, the camera is on the fan, so people can see you standing there. It's that camera over there. All right, so Ashley's made it a. By the way, what you didn't see is because I think that the camera was a little too low, was Ashley giving me an incredulous look, like, why would you yell a racist joke on the air? That's the look I just got of why are you gambling our financial future by yelling racism on the air? Oh wait, no, you don't think it's racist. You think it's just corny.
Yeah, I don't get how it's racist.
Okay, Ashley doesn't get how it's racist. So here's what I would say. Number one, we're white, so we don't get to be the arbiters of race or racism. Here is why it may or may not be racist. I would say the argument for it not being racist is that I never say it's a black guy that runs up. I think if you say a black guy runs up and screams, that's nacho cheese, that's nacho cheese, then the joke is that black people can't say things right, and you're laughing at perceived inequality. That's why it's supposed to be racist. Yeah. No, that's why it would be racist, right? If it is. If you say, all right, here's the various degrees of racist jokes. And again, I grew up in Florida. I have heard many racist jokes. Here are guys who tell, I'm bringing down the wall of racist jokes. I'm going to let you know what it's like to be inside a circle of fucking rednecks while they tell racist jokes. Here's the worst racist joke teller. Obviously, the guy who drops the N-bomb, he's the worst, right? The guy's like, anyway, an N-bomb walks up and says, nacho cheese. He's the worst. Black guy is third worst. Okay, the guy who tells a racist joke but identifies the subject or the modifier, the guy who runs up and yells about the cheese, as a black guy. And even then, there's different elements of it. So it's like black guy, least offensive of the offensive, worst black guy. That's the most. You can tell how racist they are based on how black the word black is. You know, if it sounds like an animal saying it, you are way more racist. So here's the second worst, though. The second worst racist joke. N-bomb's the first. Guy who says black guy is the third. Second is the guy who says brother. The white guy who says, so a brother walks up. Oh, there's nothing worse than the brother guy. Then using the word brother to make the point of what it is, of what the what the race of the guy is. It is more racist than just saying black guy, because it almost implies that you are aware of inequality and just don't care. Like you know more to know that brother is like a word of strength amongst the black community, and you are throwing it back in their face. It is more nefarious. But I didn't say a black guy runs up. It was just nacho cheese. And I was trying to think, okay, well, the way to diffuse this as an argument is to say, well, there's another accent that goes along with that, which I guess a Southern accent would be. It's nacho cheese, man. That's nacho cheese. But I didn't do that accent. I said, nacho cheese. I had a little bass in my voice. So maybe it is racist, because I'm like, if I wanted to do a Southern accent, I would do a Southern accent. And so the fact that the accent works and also kind of swallows the T of not and makes the Y into a CH, that fucking doesn't count. The fan seems to think it's not racist. And it does, when I put it in that context, the accent sounds like I'm doing a black guy accent more, which of course, in and of itself, the idea of a black guy accent is racist. You know, that's a racist thing to say. So number one, let's just go ahead and put the scarlet R on me for even fucking going through it. But it's not necessarily. You guys need to save me. You guys need to save me and tell me another accent that I could be doing that's not a black guy. I feel like that's the way I get out of this. Otherwise, somebody go ahead and set up a straw poll right here in the chat room, because we are going to find out whether or not, by the end of the show, whether or not the nacho cheese joke is racist, according to a poll taken by the JuRY Show live. So, it's also good to mention right now that the poll will be completely non-binding and ridiculous, as are many polls that are in the news. In fact, Donald Trump has been at the center of a lot of them. We will talk about why Donald Trump is not only good for the Republicans' chances to take the White House, he is also good for America. Coming up. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Saying people are racist. Donald Trump. Saying people rape shit. Donald Trump. You are Donald Trump. You say Mexicans are rapists and thieves. Donald Trump. Used to be on TV. White people rich. All right. Man, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a guy on, he's a man on a mission. I don't quite know what his deal. I mean, I do. I know exactly what his deal is. So, all right. What's the Donald Trump news? Yeah, and here we go. I don't have the sounder another week. Politics, 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 politics. Yes. There's the politics sounder. So Donald Trump is running for president. Donald Trump says ridiculous things. These are two facts, and the two facts you need to pay attention to in this story. Donald Trump said something ridiculous while running for president, which we knew was going to happen because he is both Donald Trump, who says ridiculous things, and is running for president. So he comes out and says, "Here, you want to know what? Let's do the man a solid." Also, by the way, we are going to take your calls a little bit later. 954-892-5665. That is 954-892-5665. I'll take those in a little bit, but go ahead and just plug that number into your phone so you can go ahead and call into the show when we go live. Let's just do our civic duty. We'll say Trump Mexican comments. Okay. So Donald Trump, it says Donald Trump stands by statements on Mexican illegal immigrants and is surprised by the backlash. All right. Well, that certainly seems to be a thing. Republican presidential candidate and real estate mogul Donald Trump Saturday stood by statements he made recently that too many illegal immigrants from Mexico are criminals, but said he was surprised by the backlash that his comments are causing financial concerns. The crime is raging and it's violent, and if you talk about it, it's racist, Trump told Fox News 3 days after purported illegal Mexican immigrants deported 5 previous times allegedly killed a woman in San Francisco. Trump made his first inflammatory remarks during a non-scripted June 16th presidential announcement speech. Here's the quote. "When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending the best," he said during the announcement. "They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those people. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people, but I speak to border guards, and they're telling us what we're getting." So, let's talk. Let's talk about Donald Trump. The fact that Donald Trump said this is really not all that odd. Donald Trump is a rich guy, and he says what he thinks, but you know, he should be taken about as seriously as somebody who just says some racist shit at your dinner table. Like, you know, you should probably think about not having that dude over again. You should correct him, and you should kind of send him on his way. He's not a serious presidential candidate, and a lot of people are making a lot of hay on saying that he is number 2 in the polls. All right. So this is really good for the rest of the Republican Party. Very good. Very, 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 very good. In fact, if you were to draw it up in a lab, you would want something like this to happen if you were the rest of the Republican Party, specifically if you're Marco Rubio or Jeb Bush. Here's the reason why. Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush are to the left of immigration in terms of the mainstream GOP, because they hope that they are going to be able to be a more palatable candidate to the general election. Now, the reason why this happened is because they realized, looking at what happened with Romney against Obama, that you need to have something that you are on the right side of history about. You need to have something that is, something that you can bring to the table for moderates, because it's not enough to just say, "Hey, I'm going to do what I do for the people that already like me." You got to be able to bring a little bit, And it can't just be the economy, which was the bread and butter of the Republican Party forever. Is that like, yeah, all right, you might disagree with me on all this other shit, but at least I'm not some fucking spend crazy lunatic like these fucking Democrats. That's not so big of a thing anymore. You know, Obama kind of proved that. So what you got to do is you got to bring a little something. Jeb Bush has a unique history as the Republican governor of Florida, which has a weird immigration issue, or at least it did back when we were, all upset about Cuba because they had the wet foot, dry foot policy. You had a lot of quote unquote illegal immigrants coming into the country and actually making a big, vibrant community in South Florida. Little Havana is filled with a lot of people that didn't fucking fill out paperwork. They just kind of made their way to Florida and said via con Dios to their family and their lives in Cuba. Now, all that shit's a different a conversation for a different day. But he can say, hey, listen, I saw a weird immigration policy when I was the governor of Florida, and now I can try to bring some of that nationwide. Because immigration reform is very much something that needs to happen. Even the other candidates who aren't, super crazy about immigration, they love the fact that Trump's in this race because he makes them look less crazy. When you have somebody in their presidential announcement saying, and I quote, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Some, I assume, are good people. I am one to laugh as much as anybody else at the silly season of American politics, wherein people pull out and try to take advantage of little menial slip-ups. But rhetorically, the sentence, they're rapists and some, I assume, are good people, says that the they are all of Mexican immigrants and the some are the tiny minority. Some, the non-rapists, are the exception to the rule. The rule is rape. And then, as a defense, he says, well, somebody's doing the raping. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez, Donald. Now, as crazy as that sounds, crystallize, take it in, hold in the hit. How crazy that sounds. Because realize that while you're thinking about how crazy that sounds, Rick Santorum sounds less crazy, Ted Cruz sounds less crazy, Rand Paul sounds less crazy. Everybody sounds less crazy than the guy who's screaming about Mexican rapists on the first day that he has announced himself as a presidential candidate. Now, this is a problem for Democrats because painting Republicans as crazy is kind of their bread and butter. That's their go-to. Look at these crazy racists. And if you're making the vast majority of the people who actually might win the Republican nomination less crazy by association, you got a problem. Because all this time that everyone's paying attention to Donald Trump's crazy racist ass, they're not saying Ted Cruz is a lunatic, Rick Santorum's a lunatic, and even worse is you're making some of the likely winners like Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush seem like they're on the right side of a historically liberal issue. This is bad news for Democrats. Donald Trump is bad news for Democrats. Here's where Donald Trump is good for America, specifically one little corner of America, specifically the Adams Point neighborhood of Oakland, California, specifically this very apartment, because I got a game called The Contender. It takes real life quotes from real life debates and puts them into a fun Cards Against Humanity or Apples to Apples-esque party game. And ooh, Lord. Oh, as soon as I heard Donald Trump talk about raping, oh. Y'all smell that? Y'all smell that? Smells like money in here. Smells like money. The weirder shit Donald Trump talks, the more I get to put him on cards and the more I get to sell them. Oh, Donald Trump, you, sir, might be a weird, crazy racist, but in my book, you're a factory for cash. Thank you, and God bless America. We're gonna talk about having sex at work right after this. We're already seeing it here in the chat room. The Trump deck is OP. CC Auto says, wasn't that in a speech and not a debate? Yeah, it is. I hope it gets brought up during the debates. And if you believe that Donald Trump will stop saying crazy shit during the debates, then you are absolutely kidding yourself. I was on the internet and I read this story. It's about a one school in Brooklyn, New York. About it's had a long, steady history of sex scandals. Latest one involves a teacher and a student, and then there's a bunch of others about all these other teachers and students, and that's wrong. I just want to go ahead out there on the record and say that if you are a high school teacher, fucking your students is a bad idea. It's bad, and you should be punished. That's a wrong-headed thing to do, and that ain't cool. So fucking don't do that, please. Now, this article, which is in the New York Post, also adds, it's just like teacher fucking student, teacher fucking student. This story, teacher fucking student. Let me read you what this one. It snuck in here. All right? Like you're trying to hide some dirty dealings in an accounting report. Here's this little story. In November 2009, custodians discovered French and Spanish instructors Sydney Morrow and Alini Brito, top of the morning to you, Brito, canoodling nearly naked in a darkened classroom at 8:50 p.m. One vixen, New York Post, was lying on the floor while the other woman was on her knees between her legs, as investigative report says. An assistant principal summoned to the scene found Brito buttoning her shirt and zipping up her boots. Former school superintendent Linda Waite reported that the women were drunk at the time. Brito claimed that she's diabetic and she was feeling ill. "Let's go upstairs," Morrow said, according to the report. "I have sugar and candy in my room." Brito claimed that she then felt faint, and that's why she was laying on the floor. Now, let's just go ahead and say that these two were fucking each other. Let's review the facts. Two adults were having sex with each other in their place of work at 8:50 at night and got busted by a snooping ass custodian. Now, everybody's work is different, and most would probably frown upon you fucking somebody. However, I think that it is something that we should understand happens every once in a while. And while it might be grounds for termination based on the rules of your employment, I don't think that it's necessarily an uncommon kind of behavior, the likes of which we need to be chastising. In fact, heretofore, I would like to say that I will guarantee a large amount of the people who are listening to this podcast right now have at least one I fucked somebody at my place of work story. I know I do. I have a couple stories about having sex at places that I worked. I don't know if, they need to be told right now. Because really they're pretty boring. I was dating somebody. I was working. I had sex with that person where I worked. It's not really a whole lot of details. And unless we get into some nitty gritty pornography about the blow by blow, literally, wink, then it's not really going to be all that interesting. Sometimes the people worked there with me. Sometimes they didn't. They were just visiting. All I'm trying to get at is that these two ladies should have a fucking, at least the pity of their culture to say that, yeah, you want to know what? Somebody busted you going down on each other. That sucks. And maybe you got fired. I don't know. That seems a little harsh. Maybe it should be a little bit of a slap on the wrist. And also the fact that kids, I guess, are there at some point. But they weren't there then. It was 8:50 at night. I found this to be shameful and disgusting that they put in 4 stories about people having sex at this high school. They snuck that one in there. It should have said in November 2009 on a totally different subject, because this has nothing to do with teacher fucking students, which is definitely wrong. This one sexy tale happened. And then you should have a little button next to it that fucking here we go. Wait a minute. Let me see if I can let me get this. Yeah, here we go. In November 2009, custodians discovered French and Spanish instructors Cindy Morrow and Alini Brito canoodling nearly naked in a darkened classroom at 8:50 p.m. One vixen was lying on the floor while the other woman was on her knees between her legs, an investigative report says. An assistant principal summoned to the scene found Brito buttoning her shirt and zipping her boots. Now that's what it should be. Yeah, it might have been wrong, but it's not illegal. They should not be shamed for this. I feel, that these two got a raw fucking deal. And maybe they didn't have the nuts to say it in 2009, but I will right here. The Justin Robert Young podcast stands exactly behind Cindy Morrow and Alini Brito. And although they probably don't want their names associated with this because it's probably really publicly embarrassing, and I apologize to them for that, I would like to say that so many people have gotten fucked during work or fucked somebody during work, whether it's not there was somebody that they worked with or somebody that they brought into work and they had sex with. This is common fucking behavior. I want you to write into me, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com, if you got a having sex at work story, because we are on a mission to prove that this is not bizarre behavior. This is not deviant behavior that needs to be lumped in with fucking statutory rapists. No, this is just a little thing that happens. Now, how about this one? Again, you can write me, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Make sure you go ahead and put JuRY in the subject line. That's what we do when we want to get some JuRY feedback from you. All right. Also, we're going to do this again where we're going to set up calls. So 954 892 5665. There's anything that the live listeners, we're doing it for the live listeners here because I want, that's always the most fun experience. We want to make sure that we get the kind of reaction that you guys want. So we want to create a big crackling live community here on Sunday nights. Make sure you go ahead and call in 954 892 5665. If you hear me talking, when I pick up your call, just stay on the line because I'll get to you. 954-892-5665. Let's go ahead and go to the split screen on the fan cam. People are demanding the fan cam. All right. Jason writes in, from your podcast, it sounds like you appreciate stories you can relate to. So I just wanted to write in and tell you about how I became a stepdad. Was 20 years old playing World of Warcraft like a good nerd, trying to figure out what to do with my life 10 years ago. Met this wonderful woman on game, and we got along with so amazingly well that she happened to be 35 years old at the time. I read that sentence fucked up. She didn't become 35 years old because they got along so well. She just was 35. The odd thing about our relationship, other than being 15 years apart, is that she already had a 10-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter. At the time, I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew I wanted her. I packed up all my shit into my 96 Ford Taurus and drove from Indianapolis to Bakersfield, California. We kept our relationship on the down low from her kids, trying not to rock the boat. Hard times, brother. I won't go into the gory details, but I'll give you a couple phrases of what we had to go through. No insurance, major surgery, bankruptcy, home short sale, busted cars, broke as broke. Story has a happy ending, though. Found a good job selling used cars with benefits, and I've been working there ever since. She finished her master's degree online in addictions counseling, and we opened up our relationship to her family 4 years ago and got married a year after that. My biggest fear was being accepted by the kids because I was so young, but they've been amazing since they met me, and because I went through those hard times, I have a real fatherly wisdom to pass down to them along with my love and care. This coming from a guy who was never going to have kids. I took a 15-year-old boy through high school as I was 25 to 28, helped him through his first heartbreak, and helped him understand the world through graduating like the badass he is. And crying as I write this motherfucking kick-ass kid just left on Monday to boot camp to become a Marine. He learned about the world and knew what he wanted to do with his life and went out and fucking got it. I'm more proud of my son than I've been of anything I've ever done with my life. As I'm writing this, I'm sure a drill instructor is screaming at his face, and that makes me laugh because I can comfortably say I know my boy can handle it, and I can't wait to see him on the other side of Camp Pendleton in 13 weeks. Hoorah, motherfuckers, and big love to the JuRY Nation. Thank you so much for writing that in, Jason. That is awesome, and the best to you and your son. AA writes in, I've been living in a self-loathing slump for a long time. We're talking over a decade now. Earlier this year, I found a boost in my self-confidence in many aspects of my life. I thought, what the hell, let's try dating again. Mind you, the last time I dated was probably close to 8 years ago. About 5 months ago, I decided it was time to start looking for that significant other. So I did what any borderline hermit of a person would do and paid for a 6-month subscription to a dating website. I picked that subscription because it seemed like the best deal, price per month. During that time, I've had a lot of lurking and a lot of doubting, but no actual attempts at communication from me. A few women winked, some of whom seemed far out of my league, and I was sure of two things. A, it has to be a scam, and B, there must be something wrong with her if she's reaching this close to the bottom of the barrel. For reasons beyond my comprehension, over the last month, I've started behaving like less of a shut-in and more like one of those people I've seen while looking through the cracks of the curtain in the living room window. That's what I like to call one-slur behavior, brother. The new attitude might be caused by the new job and friends I've made in the last 4 months. Not sure, really. As of this week, I finally filled out my dating profile in a way where it might look like somebody with a personality might be behind the keyboard. Now that you know everything there is to know about me, would it be a good idea for a guy with my history to pursuing women to fork out more cash on a dating site? If you'd like to give your opinion on my poor attempt at wooing women online, I've attached screenshots of the important bits of my profile, which I don't have right here, so I don't need it. The email address isn't associated, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so AA. Here's the deal. You need to understand that you are somebody who deserves to communicate with other people. Now, you might not think that you're the fucking greatest prize on the big fucking prize shelves at the ring toss, but you deserve to talk to people. Everyone deserves to talk to people. That is not something that is bestowed upon some. And I think that we might get, every once in a while, I like to throw a lot of these out here to the audience just because I feel like this is always a best show when it is a back and forth. But I want to hear, because I got a feeling that there's some motherfuckers out here in this audience that might have a story or two about maybe being on the shelf for a little bit and then getting back in the game. So I think, you might have a little fucking first, frontline opinion based on this. However, yes, you should get on the dating site. You want to be on the dating site because sitting in your fucking room, you decided to do it. And you decided to hang out, to put out some feelers on it. Now, you might want to dial it back a little bit because I'm going to go ahead and take a wild guess and say that you will not necessarily find somebody for whom is the greatest love of your life coming in cold, you know. You might need to just have a few awkward dates. So I would maybe think about something a little bit more cash, you know. Here's what I would do. I would get on Tinder, one of these Hinge, one of these apps, right? And I would just go out on dates with the idea being you're not going to be a creep, right? Now, it should be easy because I don't think you're a creep. I don't think you're going to come off as one. But I think you should just go on a few dates that are just coffee dates in which you get used to talking to other people. You get over the fear of meeting somebody for the first time. And you just have a nice conversation. That's it. You don't expect there to be a future. You don't expect there to be anything beyond that. You're just getting your reps in about being in front of strangers, especially with the context of romance in the air. You are going to look at possible romance and say, I'm not nervous because I'm just here to say hello, have coffee, and have a good time. So that's what I would say. Because it would be even worse if you went on a date for the first time with someone you'd never known before and you had not fucking been on a date in forever and you're so goddamn nervous that you can't even fucking properly assess whether or not this is the right person for you. And then at that point, now you're stuck into it. If, let's say, they're like, oh, great, let's go out on a second date. And now you're with them because they want to tolerate you and not because you really, really connect. That's how you can get yourself. Because I'll tell you this, as pathetic as you might feel right now, you are a better off situation than being in an unhappy relationship. Like, that is the absolute worst. You don't want to lock yourself into something for which you're unhappy, because if you think getting into a relationship is daunting, getting out of a relationship can be just as fucking hairy. So consider yourself lucky, but get out there a little bit. Although I'm curious to hear if anybody else, just getting back in the game, getting off the bench. Paul writes, I just listened to your JuRY podcast. Your handling of sensitive topics was deft as ever. Aw, geez, Paul, I'm blushing. Which is both to your credit and a ding against your claim of just being a howling dog on the internet. If not a howling dog, then why am I so hairy? You also asked what kind of people listen to your show. Well, I don't know if what I do passes muster as interesting. Here it goes. I'm an American journalist working at a newspaper in Abu Dhabi, doing those things that modern ink stain wretches do: writing, copy editing, designing pages, posting to the web, hosting a podcast. This is my third job overseas, having also worked in Jakarta and Beijing. And before, I had stops in Hawaii, Oregon, and Nebraska. I imagine part of this restlessness comes with growing up in an Air Force family, and apart from just going where the work is. Why do I stay in a dying business? And by business, I mean the industry. At 34 years old, digging the Kornheiser reference, mostly because I'm good at it. All my professional experience is in it, and I'm terrified of the prospect of life outside the newsroom, the only place outside my home I've ever felt like I truly belong. That probably makes me something of a coward, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. Shut up. Anyway, just wanted to let you know that you have at least one listener who enjoys it when you recount your days in newspaper. Please keep it up, and best of luck with the wedding. All the best, Paul in Abu Dhabi. Thank you very, very much, Paul. That's super rad, and I know I've talked to Paul before on the internet, so it is great to hear. Ken writes in. This is from the Ken about trans, whether or not trans species. He wanted to know what transgender folk thought about the idea of trans species people. Ken writes, though Gabrielle was nice enough to disagree, I'm concluded that I am, in fact, an asshole. We have an asshole alert. Asshole alert! For the record, I believe while there are similarities between trans species and transgender, I don't see them as the same thing, mostly because I can wrap my mind around wanting to change your genders, but I can't wrap my mind around wanting to cross species. The only reason I could think of it is for wanting to look at the non-human was for seeking attention. However, I'm sure there is a shy tiger man out there who will shatter my worldview. However, I am an asshole because I shouldn't write off anyone as an attention-seeking freak job. And yes, I do believe I use that term without getting to know it first. Also, what's wrong with being an attention-seeking freak job? I, a middle child of all things who revels in buffoonery, should regard them as kindred spirits. To all trans species friends I have slighted, if you're ever in the K-Dubs region of the great province of Ontario, I owe you a beer, even to you, Red Skull guy. And Gabrielle, I owe you 2 beers for not calling me an asshole when I so clearly was. All right, so here's what's awesome about this. Number one, I love the idea that, again, you guys know it is the boner of all boners for me when folks who disagree about stuff would have a common bond. I love it. I love it. But I will say, here's why you can't say attention-seeking freak job, because you got to understand that I'm going to go ahead and take a wild guess and assume that Ken in Ontario is a white man. When white men say attention-seeking freak job, you got to understand it is coming from a position of assumed power. Now, you might or might not be powerful, but you are up top raining shit on people that are below you because society looks at white men and says, all right, nothing weird here, checks you off. A lot of other elements of society don't get that check. Being a white man is like having TSA pre-check for life. Okay? Like, it's not like the experience of life. The experience of going to an airport is kind of the same for everybody. But it's better to have pre-check because you just get a lot of shit assumed. It's assumed you don't have a bomb. It's assumed you're not carrying some bizarre weapon. It's assumed that you aren't going to do harm. That's what being a white man is. White straight man, I should say. Sam, I have a problem. This is Sam writing in. I have a problem. Despite being 25 years old, I've never been on a plane or in an airport, which means that roughly 75% of every podcast is not relevant to me. What should I do? Sam, thank you very much for writing in. I'm going to turn your email totally about me. This is something that I feel very, very bad about because a lot of my life is being on planes. I'm on planes a lot. I fly a lot for business. However, I am aware of the fact that most people ain't never been on a good goddamn airplane. And being on an airplane is looked at as something that is a rich thing to do. It is a privilege to do it. So when I come out screaming and yelling about how I didn't have a good time on the airplane or how I'm tired of being on airplanes or how it's just a frustrating grind that I'm on airplanes so goddamn much, I understand that there is a large majority of the audience that looks at me and just does the jerk-off motion. Because in their minds, they're like, well, fuck, I wish I could fucking just fly around all over the place and visit a bunch of people, see family, see friends, maintain relationships that have otherwise died on the vine because I live in a different geographical place. Fuck, man, I wish I could see fucking strange and unusual places and meet new strangers and broaden my horizons. Boo-hoo, fly boy. I fucking didn't know that it was so hard gobbling so much goddamn candy. Oh, I hate candy so much because it gives me a bellyache when I eat 14 fucking jars of it. I understand that. I understand that that's something that's hard to listen to. So I don't know if I'm going to change, but just know that I'm with you. Of course, everybody can write to this show, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. You can find the podcast on Stitcher, iTunes, or some other shit. Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. We periscoped the Hood Slam show, and by we I mean Ashley. I was just kind of wasted behind her, yelling and screaming. So you can go ahead and check that out. All of them are Justin R. Young. If you would like to, if you would like to check out the Contender, it is Contender Game on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And of course, you can hashtag join the conversation at diamondclub.reddit.com. I will be posting, and I have been posting emails, longer emails that I had to cut down on the Reddit. So check it out, diamondclub.reddit.com. Ladies and gentlemen, if you should find yourself calling a bunch of Mexicans racist, if you should find yourself on the bench and not able to, I'm sorry. All right, hold on. Man, I couldn't even do it. Because I'm looking here at this straw poll, and I don't know how this happened, but the straw poll that I had asked for was whether or not the nacho cheese joke is racist. So I guess we're gonna have to leave that one to people who write in, because what straw poll actually got made was, what accent should JuRY use to say nacho cheese? So I will go ahead. Well, this one I know is racist. So the number one vote getter, it's tied, is Indian Randy Savage or the Gumshoe voice. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say, I'm gonna say that it's we're gonna do Randy Savage because that's a person and not a race. Which I can do an impression of a person. You can't do an impression of a race. So here we go. This will end the show. Two guys are on the porch. All of a sudden, a wheel of cheese rolls by and lands at their feet. Guy one says to guy two, both of whom are black, "Hey, is that cheddar?" Guy number two says, "No, it looks like jack cheese." And then all of a sudden, tasseled in neon colors with reflector shades, comes running Intercontinental Champion, World Champion, Macho Man Randy Savage, who is yelling at the top of his lungs, "Ooh, yeah, it's nacho cheese, brother. Yeah, ooh, yeah, it's nacho cheese, brother. Yeah." Please don't die. Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.